Coming up on All About Android, it's me, Jason Howell. We've got WinTwit Dow, Ron Richards, and Juan Bagnell, some gadget guy, on the same episode as me. It's really weird, but it's a lot of fun. We have a great time. We talk about the new Pixel feature drop, the ADT-4 and how the 3 is going away, and Android TV 13. It's a whole discussion around Android TV. The Nothing Phone 2, you might be waiting for it, but you're going to be waiting a lot longer. Extensive talk about OnePlus's new update policy and update policies in general. Digital IDs coming to Google Wallet soon-ish. Your feedback and a whole lot more. That's coming up next on All About Android.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is All About Android, episode 607, recorded Tuesday, December 6th, 2022. The Blue Moustache. This episode of All About Android is brought to you by Tanium. Tanium unites operations and security teams with a single platform that identifies where all your IT data is, patches every device you own in seconds, and implements critical security controls all from a single pane of glass. Are you ready to protect your organization from cyber threats? Well, learn more at tanium.com/twit. And by HPE GreenLake, orchestrated by the experts at CDW, who can help you consolidate and manage all your data in one flexible edge-to-cloud platform to scale and innovate. Learn more at cdw.com/HPE. And by Code Comments, an original podcast from Red Hat that lets you listen in on two experienced technologists as they describe their building process and what they've learned from their experiences. Search for Code Comments in your podcast player. Welcome to All About Android, your weekly source for the latest news, hardware, and apps for the Android faithful. I don't know who this guy is, but I'm Jason Howell.
'Tis the season. I'm Ron Richards.
To be merry, because I'm WinTwit Dow.
Yes, it's good to have you both here. And even better, I mean, that's amazing having you both here. But what makes this even better is having Juan Bagnell here at the same time that I'm here. Because usually when I'm off, Juan's on. And when Juan's on, I'm off. We are not the same person. So here we are.
Yeah. It was the rumor around the internet that it was like, hey,
everybody
in the same place at the same time.
Totally.
So
we have joked about we've joked about this literally for years. And I said I said no, one of these days we'll get John and Jason.
It happens.
Here. And not only is this the best, this is like the best holiday present we could ever ask for. Yeah. Look at that. So yeah.
I mean,
it was the best holiday present you could have given. It's better to give. I'm receiving. This is great.
I could give you this holiday present. Would you? How would you feel about that?
Violent.
Yeah, I won't throw it at you, but
to your face, because it's scary. I'll say, "Wow, thank you. That's very kind of you." And then I'll find something more interesting to do.
This is a Shimmer Noel, is what the label on the bottom says. Shimmer Noel. It's like a reindeer, like a ceramic, sparkly reindeer with reasonably sharp antlers. Like they're not razor sharp, but you can do some damage with this thing. I'm a little scared of it, to be honest. I won't.
Is it heavy? Like 10 pounds?
Shoot your eye out.
5, 10?
Yeah, it's got some weight. And not maybe 5, but probably more like 4, 3, 4.
Oh, okay, so not so bad.
But
you can celebrate the season and protect yourself from intruders.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's a great combo gift. There it is. Yeah.
The gift that keeps on giving.
You'd put it in. You could put it in a stocking if it wouldn't tear right through it when you put it in there.
Just a big stocking, like a size.
I was going to say you hang the stockings from it. You don't put it in the stocking.
You have this on the mantelpiece.
There we go.
The stockings. Yeah, that's not a bad idea at all. And if that doesn't exist, we should make it and make millions of holiday bucks. See, this is why we need to be on the same episode, Juan, because we come up with $1 million ideas like that winner.
That idea is already on Wish. So
no, you're absolutely right. It's on Wish. It's on AliExpress and all the others. Somegadgetguy.com to find Juan all over the internet. Also at Some Gadget Guy on Twitter. Also randomly appearing in the Slick Deals app, as I noticed like a week ago. I was scrolling through my Slick Deals and I saw a little video thumbnail of Juan. So there you go.
I'm really excited about that one. That's a new partnership for me, and that team is it's really exciting to get up to speed on how aggressive they are at deal hunting. So they're giving me a crash course. It's pretty sick.
Yeah. I mean, that app's pretty great. Especially this time of year, we're talking about it a little bit in pre-show, but longtime viewers and listeners of All About Android will probably remember that at some point, I can't remember how far back, I brought Slick Deals into the arena. And it's just been one of those, people ask us in email from time to time, like, what are the apps that like you continue to use year after year? Because we brought so many apps into the arena, and, peeling back the curtain, 95% of those apps we probably didn't use more than a couple of weeks, right? Like, it was cool to play around with them and everything, but they didn't have longevity. Slick Deals is definitely one of those apps that has longevity for me. I use it all the time. So there's a little bit of a recommendation. But anyways.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah.
Your check's in the mail.
Good to have you here, Juan. And we've got some really great and interesting array of news to talk about and some great feedback a little bit later. So why don't we dive right in? Burke, I hope you're ready. I hope you've thought really long and hard about what you want the news bumper to be. And if I can say, I hope that my talking for a long time about it isn't throwing you off so that you forget what you were going to do.
I was going to say, I thought you were saying to Burke, I hope you thought long and hard about what you did, because you know what you did, Burke.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm. You know what you did.
You know what you haven't done yet, and that's push the button. Let's go.
In fact, I'm not so good under pressure when it comes to staging, being, in front of the camera or the mic. So, but today is feature drop day in the news.
There we go. Okay. Hey, you know what? I tried to throw you off your game, and it only worked a tiny bit. You are a professional. You're a pro.
Yeah,
he's a pro.
I am. I act like a professional. I don't sound like one.
They broke the mold with Burke. They literally did. Yeah.
Was it a mold for a reindeer head? The shimmer, was it Shimmer Noel? Was that the mold?
Yes, it was a mold for whatever the heck this thing is.
We had the holiday gift of Juan joining the show, and Google also gave us a holiday gift with the Pixel Drop, right?
Yeah. If you happen to have a Pixel phone, that is, of course, right? You need a Pixel to get the Pixel Drop. Otherwise, everybody else listening, the majority of people who have their Samsungs and their other their OnePluses and whatever else you have are like, oh, God, who cares about Pixel Drops? But I like to call them the PD. It's the PD. What's the monthly PD? Oh, okay. That's an interesting thing to call it.
The cool kids are saying PD.
All right. I will trust you.
I immediately think Peak Design, because I have the Peak Design case on my Pixel.
Oh, hey, that's a nice looking case.
That's really nice.
That is a nice looking case, I have to say.
This little mount system is pretty cool.
Oh, okay. That's what I was thinking. Must be a mount system. Is it a magnetic mount system or?
Oh, yeah. I've got the clip for it right here. So they've got these plates that have little triggers, and you just go snap. And then you can kind of set it.
Oh my god,
that's neat. Is that a fabric case? It kind of looks like it would be fabric, but
yeah, it's got a soft touch fabric on the side, rubber bumpers that kind of wrap the edge and kind of help with because I'm not the biggest fan of curved screens, so it gives you just a little bit of an edge to protect against that. And then it fits with the Peak Design tripod, or they also have a whole bunch of like little mounts you can get, like handlebar mounts or motorcycle mounts or car mounts. So it's pretty handy. They started obviously with iPhones, then they started including Galaxies. It's really cool to see them supporting Pixels, because Peak Design is a tiny little company.
Yeah, that's dare I say slick. I like that.
That's a good indicator. That's a good indicator for the health of the line, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. People are taking it seriously.
Well, and like Nomad, who I can't remember if they're still a sponsor, but they've definitely been a sponsor on the network. They, were, again, iPhone accessory, and then they started doing a little bit of Pixel, and then they did the Pixel Buds, which was like, whoa, Pixel Buds case. That's kind of crazy. So yeah, getting a little respect. Pixel's getting a little respect in the hardware case world, but that's not at all what we're talking about. That was a total tangent. This month, if you have a Pixel device, you are going to get the Pixel Feature Drop. And it's kind of a little Christmas present from Google for Pixel owners. You get some pretty cool features. VPN by Google One. So if you have a Google One account, if you're paying for storage. Does this apply for anyone who's paying for Google One storage, or is it a certain tier? Because I'm paying for the 200 gig plan, which is, I think, like, what is that? Like $3.99 a month or something like that. And I've got Google One VPN in my app. I can't remember if it's like on the baseline 99-cent or $1.99 version of Google One. But anyways, VPN through Google. That's a nice feature to just kind of suddenly have on your Pixel phone if you don't already have VPN. Clear calling, which was a feature that Google had talked about earlier this year. It reduces background noise and then enhances the voice of the person who you happen to be talking to. So it makes that call clearer.
I wanted to change the voice of the person I'm talking to.
Oh,
like kind of like yeah, like the GPS things. I want Mr. T when you call me, or So.
I was thinking more like T-Pain, like Leron.
Oh no, please no.
Oh wow, you really tried to do T-Pain. That was great.
Yeah, it was a horrible rendition, but you get the picture. This is really cool.
Not really.
Shut up, Burke. Recorder. Do y'all use the Recorder app? It's like one of my favorite Google apps. I absolutely love it. It's so useful, and it's so, like, just the other night, actually just last night, I was brainstorming with my daughter. She has to create a video for one of her classes, and she's like, I don't know what to do. And I was like, well, let's brainstorm it. So I set out Recorder, and we were kind of talking through it, had some really great ideas back and forth for like 10 minutes. And then I hit stop and I was like, hey, check this out. And I showed her the little transcript, and then I shared the link with her, and it gives you the web page with the transcript embedded. And it's just
That's cool.
And what's interesting to me about that app is that's not like your table stakes app. That's not a map. That's not a to-do list or whatever. I guess maybe some people might consider an audio recorder a table stake type app that you just expect to be on a phone, but it's very different from like yet Google is investing a lot of attention to this, and now they're bringing labels to Recorders. So when a different person is speaking, the AI recognizes that and will notate, person one or person two, or however that's done. I haven't played around with it. And it will delineate with a line when you switch speakers. And that's just like, that's so magical. That's so cool.
Can I say, I had no idea I had this app on my phone. I literally went to the Google Play Store to go download it, and it's like installed. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is awesome.
I think it's pre-installed on Pixel devices. It's just one of those baked-in apps at this point. Yeah, it's really cool if you haven't played around with it. And the more I use it, the more I look for reasons to use it, because it's just such a great experience.
So everyone in Jason Howe's life, be careful, because he might be recording.
Yeah, I'm recording you.
Yeah.
I'm recording you. And the transcripts are searchable, so be careful. Okay.
I'll send you the neat little webpage with the transcription. You'll see it. It's okay.
It's all right here. I can listen to it and read it at the same time, so it definitely happened. There's a new security hub for security and privacy settings and risk level settings, all in one place. You get sleep and snore detection on the Pixel 6 and the 6 Pro.
Don't get me started on the snore detection, by the way. Like, I didn't know this was a thing, and then I saw it in Digital Wellbeing. I'm like, sure, I'll turn that on. And now I'm obsessively checking every night to see how many times I've coughed or how many, how long I've snored. And obviously I share the bedroom with my wife. And so now I'm like, well, I mean,
did you just ask her?
Like how does it know? How does it know who it? How does it know who it is? Like, this is.
I was gonna say, I'm my husband's snore detector. He don't need no Pixel phone. He got me.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. My I don't need a snore detector. My wife tells me basically every night.
Mm-hmm.
But by the way, there was a week of like abject panic where I'm like Googling like average length of snoring per night. Like, am I snoring more?
Like, oh no, I slept 8 hours and I snored 6.5 of them.
Oh yeah, it's really stressful.
Yeah.
Like when you see a graph like this, you're just like, oh God, what's going on? Like why
is all the blue? Is that all snore?
Yeah, but the thing is that it's misleading, because like it builds a graph of the blue as every snore, so it looks like you snored the whole night, but then it's like 2 hours of snoring. I'm like, all right,
Ron, I got you. There's 2 words that I have for you that will make clear up this whole problem.
Stop looking.
Stop it.
Yeah, stop it. Turn it off. Stop it.
Turn it off. Not necessary.
Oh, I have a rant about assistant, but let's get through the Pixel drop.
All right. Universal search coming to all Pixels, back to the 4A. There's new languages for live translate, another very magical thing that Google does. Arabic, Persian, Swedish, Vietnamese, and Danish all coming to live translate. And spatial audio support, although this wasn't really a feature that's being implemented. This was just like an announcement that, hey, coming to the Pixel 7, the 6, and the 6A in January is spatial audio support. So, the Pixel Buds Pro supports spatial audio. We've been waiting for actual support within apps and stuff, and I guess that's around the corner. But that's not all, because we also have... contrary to the last time we did a feature drop where I don't think we had the Pixel Watch then, we also get the first feature drop for the Pixel Watch, getting Fitbit Sleep Profile as part of the Fitbit Premium package. That was a lot of P's and plosives. New tiles for weather, contacts, and then, of course, the improved Keep experience that I think we talked about last week or the week before. And then Google... put a little reminder in there that fall detection is still coming, though not until sometime in 2023. So there you go.
Hey, still no podcast app, so oh well.
On the Pixel Watch.
On the Pixel Watch. Juan, what do you think of the Pixel Watch? Have you gotten to play with it yet? Or?
Yeah, I've got it. I like it, and I think there's a very specific kind of maybe Fitbit consumer who is going to absolutely adore this watch. It's not really the watch for me, and I'm kind of back on my TicWatch just for super mega crazy awesome battery life. I'm curious to give this a go with just a few of these little tweaks and refinements, because I kind of feel like Wear OS 3 is still finding its footing, and I think it's still trying to find that refinement, and I think it's still kind of sort of baking still. So I'm hoping that this is a good platform just to show us what we can expect from future updates. And then we see a regular schedule of software support for a long neglected wearable operating system.
Yes, yep. Indeed. I keep forgetting to wear my Pixel Watch, and I think that kind of speaks for itself. I don't know that that's necessarily like the Pixel Watch is horrible. That's why I keep forgetting to wear it. But as I've said time and time again on this show, I keep realizing or forgetting what reasons I actually have to wear a smartwatch. Like, I really don't have very many reasons to wear one. And so I forget a lot. If I had a very specific reason, then maybe I'd remember to put it on more, but I don't. And so it just kind of...
Yeah, for me, it's just my gatekeeper, so I'm not constantly picking up my phone. And genuinely, if I could get rich notification support on a fitness tracker, I'd probably leave smartwatches altogether just so that I could respond to text messages from my wrist and get better battery life. That to me, I think would be the killer combo. All the other little applets and things are fun. That's cool. There are a few things I like doing from my wrist, but I'd happily give them up if I could reply to messages with speech to text, and I could get the kind of battery life we see from a Mobvoi or a Huawei or any of these other things that can last like 3 weeks on a single charge.
Oof. Man, we keep wishing for that in this caliber of smartwatch, and it keeps not happening. So I wonder when that's going to happen, if ever. So there we go. There's our feature drop. Over to you,
There
Rob.
it is. All right. So I'll do my assistant rant later, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, because
we've got plenty of show for assistant rants.
It's more Nest Hub related. Might continue to fight the Google Nest Hub. But one thing Google makes that I do love is Android TV, and how exciting is that Android TV 13 is now out of beta, everybody. Another holiday present from the Google.
Wow, amazing. What are we going to see? What amazing stuff are we in store for?
Well, Jason, let me tell you, if you're looking for major, amazing stuff on the UI, you're not going to find it. Because a lot of the updates are mainly under the hood and behind the scenes. Wah, wah.
Okay.
So basically, if you look under the hood of Android TV 13, now you got adjustable resolution and refresh rates, which is getting more and more important, and as the screens are evolving and improving refresh rates. Power saving modes. Like the device can pause content if the HDMI signal changes to something new, which is really interesting. Audio Manager API that anticipate audio support for a selected device and automatically optimize it upon playback of content. Juan, that's up your alley, Mr. Audiophile.
Yeah.
And, just a whole bunch of other small improvements that yada, yada, it's all in there, but minor bug fixes in the release notes.
Exciting.
So I'm very excited to get this on my Google TV for Chromecast, which I got to admit is getting lately a little laggy and a little kind of annoying.
Yeah.
So I wish I had more RAM and or storage space in that dang dongle. But I'm excited to get Android 13.
That
for sure.
dang dongle.
But I'm glad you said that, Ron, because that's the biggest concern I've got when we look at like switching operating systems on this kind of stuff is, boy, howdy, is it easy to fill up the storage on that Chromecast. I mean,
so
I think
easy.
that's why mine's starting to run a little chuggy too.
Yep.
I was reminding myself of how pathetic the amount of RAM is on Chromecast.
It's
with Google
so
TV.
bad,
It's 2
right?
gigs. 2 gigs of stinking RAM on a device that's supposed to power your like huge TV in your living room. Give me a break.
So also,
we
if I
had
can
this rant
complain-
already, but it still ticks me off.
If I can complain about this, now this is on topic and relevant. It's doing different things now, specifically, and admittedly, I have, as we all know, everyone, longtime listeners know, I have 2 toddlers. I have 2 4-year-olds that are running around the house, and the remote has taken a beating over the last 2 years. But it's doing a thing now, which I don't think there's a physical problem with the remote. But when I turn the power off on the Google TV remote, it turns the TV off, and then 2 seconds later, it turns it back on. And I don't know why. And which is really frustrating when you're telling kids it's time for bed. Turn the TV off.
Right.
The last video.
And the TV's like, no, it's not.
Yeah, exactly. But it's back on. I'm like, oh, God damn it. So it's really, really, and also it's doing a thing when I turn it on, it doesn't do anything. It's frozen unless I hit the back button and then it unfreezes and I can move stuff around. Like it's acting very weird. I might just get a new one. Maybe. I don't know. They're cheap enough. See if I can get 2 that I could attach together and get double the RAM. That'd be cool.
Yeah, you could daisy chain them.
Network
That's
them.
possible, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So.
That's how
plug
I
an
did
SSD in there,
Like a RAID.
Get it like
But
Yeah.
an array of Chromecast.
I did buy the dumb Ethernet plug, the Ethernet jack in the plug for it that I never ran Ethernet to the
Dude,
TV.
come on. That thing's awesome.
I know. I know it is awesome, but it means I got to run Ethernet through the basement
do
up
it,
to the floor.
yeah.
I just haven't done
yeah.
it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So hypothetically,
Like,
it's awesome.
and then you're like, yeah, but I mean, it's still working. It's not like it's not streaming to the device.
It's just chunky
What
and
what
slow.
really hung me up was that I thought I could, because I have FiOS and I have the FiOS coming in and the modem is installed down by my power junction box in the basement, and then from the modem it's running up Ethernet running up here to the office where the FiOS router is. And I thought that the modem would have another Ethernet jack that I could plug into and just run that to the living room, but it doesn't. So it's just so I'd have to move the router to the base. It's a whole thing, and I just don't have time. I just don't have time around it.
It doesn't sound fun to me.
Yeah.
I'd be there procrastinating that too if I were in your shoes.
Wi-Fi, and it kills me. It kills me to be streaming like 4K over Wi-Fi. It kills me. I know it's supposed to be Ethernet, right, Burke? It's supposed to be Ethernet. So
Definitely.
you always.
I mean, I think the answer to that question is if Ethernet is available, then yes,
Right.
it's supposed to always be Ethernet.
Yeah. Which should I
will
use? Ethernet? Yes.
Yeah.
I will admit, pre-children Ron would have ran the Ethernet, but post-children Ron.
Oh, right. No, totally. Pre-Jason or pre-children Jason would be rooting and romming my phone.
Right. Yes. Exactly.
Post-children Jason don't got time for that. So yes, that's how it works. All right, Wynn, over to you. Still related to Android TV.
Still related. So we're going to keep talking about Android, TV 13, which, has a lot of neat stuff. But, it isn't quite available yet, at least on consumer devices, but it is available on the ADT-4, which is a developer kit for Android TV. But there's a snag because after 3 years, the ADT-4 is discontinued. So the ADT-4 is a dongle, a developer kit dongle, on which you can actually, test Android TV devices, which is super important. Otherwise, the only place that you can run this shiny, fancy new Android TV 13 is either ADT-4 or an emulator. And as a dev, I can tell you emulators ain't good enough. We really like physical things. So unfortunately, it's been out of stock for months on the manufacturer ASCII's site. And so if you're a dev wanting to get into Android TV 13 development, you might just have to emulate it up for a little bit. But silver lining sources say that Google is lining up a successor to the ADT-3, the ADT-4. And so instead of the current ADT, there's too many.
Just say it as if it was a word. ADT. Yeah, that's easier. No,
instead of
it's not at all. Instead
of an ADT-3 dongle, you might be getting a nice box form factor for the ADT-4, which is reportedly based on a developer box that is currently being sold by DroidLogic.tv. The Amlogic S905X4, if I didn't get confused enough by too many letters and numbers, here we go. The Amlogic S905X4 developer box is a currently $199.99 developer box, which you can purchase today to develop your Android TV apps. It actually is quite nice. I mean, it's a bit more expensive than the ADT-3, which was $79.99, as opposed to, let's just call it $200 and save Win some extra number reading. But you do get a lot for the $200. And so if the ADT-4 is in fact based on this Amlogic S905X4, you're going to get like 2 gigabytes of RAM. Woo, so much, 2 gigabytes of RAM. So lifelike, very lifelike to the RAM that we get these days with our actual, Android TV devices.
I mean, as a developer, you actually want to develop for the devices that are out there. And apparently,
you want to know what it actually is like, not what we hope it's like. So that's good.
Yeah, it's so sad.
You do get 16 gigabytes of storage, TV tuner hardware, HDMI out, multiple USB out, including a USB-C. You get 35 millimeter audio and optical audio, a micro SD card slot, and built-in microphones and a speaker to test out Google Assistant. So a lot more kind of action-packed, feature-filled, inputs and outputs for your TV app development. So this does seem to be an actual thing. There are references to ADT-4 already in the Android source code, and sources say that Q4 2022 was when it was slated for release. But since it's as of this recording, December 6th, we might just kind of consider that pushback a little, maybe early 2023. But when asked for comment, Google has none. So it's an interesting time because this is always like weird to me because right now, like there's so many, on the kind of consumer/developer side, Google is so excited about letting us know that, hey, y'all got Android TV 13 coming, and hey, devs, you get to use Compose Drink for Android TV. But, there's always like this kind of like these little disconnects, like, oh, by the way, though, we don't quite have a developer kit for you for sale. But just wait on that, maybe. No comment. So hopefully you'll have a new dev box or developer kit to purchase in the new year if you are a developer and you are interested in getting in on that Android TV 13. So
that's quite a change in what this. I mean, this thing looks beefy. I mean, except for the 2 gigs of RAM silliness. But I mean, this has so much I/O in it compared to like a little dongle. It's like so different.
Yep.
It makes so much sense, though, just because, Oh, go ahead, Juan.
But I mean, I think you might have just been about to lean into what I was going to ask. This is going to be a developer kit, but does this set the stage? Is this something that consumers are looking at? Does a dongle give you less confidence in a TV streaming ability than like a set-top box type product? Because, Apple TV looks like a different type of product, and there are different kinds of Rokus. Is this something that you guys think, like, does that get consumers to think, oh, this is for serious TV watching, not just a floppy little stick that plugs into the side of my TV?
With 2 gig of RAM.
We'll just keep calling that out. We'll keep calling that out until they actually
it's not
stop
even like RAM is expensive, by the way. How hard would it be to put 4 gig in there?
Especially on a $200 device. But yeah, that's a good question. I mean, we've gotten very used to, at least coming from Google, the little dongle-y thing. This is a very different thing. But I guess if you're creating one device to house, to be a development device for Android 13, right? Android. That's what's going to be on here, Android 13?
Yeah, 13.
I mean, if you're creating one device, you either side on a device that doesn't have all of that extra stuff, and then developers are left to kind of come up with other hardware in order to develop for those things, or you give them all of the IO, and then you know what I mean? I don't know. What do you think, Gwen?
I would prefer all the IO because usually especially with Android, I love the Android ecosystem. One of the most difficult parts of Android development is testing and making sure that you cover everything. And so sort of they try to cover that with emulators, but emulators don't behave like real devices. Real devices have power, real devices have connection issues. And as much as you try to emulate or fake, real life scenarios where you want your app to, be stable and consistent in the face of real life, emulators don't cut it. So having a box and like this is not cheap, right? The phones aren't cheap anyway. $200 is probably cheaper than most dev phones anyway. But I think that is a point too. Maybe what they're hoping with this more robust, testing solution is to cover all the bases, audio, actually, hardware on Android is particularly hard because there's so many different OEMs. Yeah. So I think by giving devs as many possibilities or as many, points of error, as many different connections they have to support, you're going to give people a better, you're going to give devs a more realistic kind of swath of things to support. And hopefully that translates to better and more stable and more, bug-free apps. So yeah, this makes a lot of sense. And the fact that it's so robust, maybe that means Google's looking to kind of do more. Yeah, I think that's a good connection.
I feel to your point, especially when we're talking about people who are trying to develop for Android TV, I feel we overlook that a mountain of that development is probably happening from the people making hardware, trying to build Google TV into a TV. And we've seen some of the various teething pains on making that happen. So if you make a developer box that looks this kind of crazy robust, a more premium IO, a more premium kind of a set-top experience that maybe, for me, it kind of looks to me like it's sort of like trying to the tail wagging the dog is you get the hardware partners interested in something that they can sell to consumers. The consumers are going to have more faith in this larger computing device that can do their TV. And then that's going to create sort of a snowball of interest in apps and services trying to jump on board. I don't know. Whenever I see something like that, I get kind of excited because I think Google leading a discussion on the hardware ecosystem makes a lot of sense for sort of raising the cachet. And then people will go, oh, well, my TV has this built in, and isn't that kind of cool? And then you can kind of bring other people to the party that way, sort of a sideways way to get more consumers interested in some of these other solutions.
Yeah.
No, that's exactly how it goes. And even I think devs tend to, this is kind of at the root of a lot of conversations we have about this entire Google Android ecosystem is that Google kind of has to lead the way and provide opportunities, provide testing devices, provide avenues and kind of some security that this is not just, fly by the seat of your pants, just throw some stuff on a TV and hope it works. That there's an investment in the long-term health and viability of this as a platform. So yeah, absolutely. The tail wags.
And then they can't be too good at it so that they get in the way of their partners.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, okay, we've got that's kind of hardware-y, and we've got more hardware stuff to talk about in our hardware block. But before we go there, let's take a moment to thank the sponsor of this episode of All About Android, and that is Tanium. This episode of All About Android is brought to you by Tanium, the industry's approach to cybersecurity. It's fundamentally flawed. IT management and security point tools offer only a small piece of the solution that's actually needed to protect your environment. And many of them, they make promises that they can stop all breaches, and quite frankly, they simply cannot. Making decisions based on stale data and then trying to defend your critical assets from cyber attacks with tools that don't talk to each other, that's no way for IT teams to navigate today's attack surface. It's time right now for a different approach, and that's what Tanium's all about. Tanium says it's time for a convergence of tools, endpoints, and IT operations and security. Tanium actually has solutions for government entities, for education, financial services, retail, healthcare. And you can trust their solutions for every workflow that actually relies on endpoint data. So that's asset discovery and inventory. So you can track down every IT asset you own instantaneously right now. There's risk and compliance management, so you can find and fix vulnerabilities at scale in seconds. Hunting for sophisticated adversaries in real time, that's threat hunting. Client management, automating those operations from discovery to management. And then finally, sensitive data monitoring. This is indexing and monitoring sensitive data globally. And again, in seconds. It's all about the timeliness of how this works. Tanium protects organizations where other endpoint management and security providers have failed. With a single platform, Tanium identifies where all your data is across your entire IT estate. It patches every single device you own in seconds and then implements critical security controls all from a single pane of glass. Talk about easy, talk about fast, talk about instantaneous. Kevin Bush, the VP of IT at Ring PowerCore, says, Tanium brings visibility to one screen for our whole team. If you don't have that kind of visibility, you're not going to be able to sleep at night. Pretty important stuff. So with real-time data comes real-time impact. If you're ready to unite operations and security teams with a single source of truth and confidently protect your organization from cyber threats, well, it's time you met Tanium. You can learn more by visiting tanium.com/twit. That's Tanium. Tanium.com/twit. And we thank Tanium for their support of All About Android. And with that, it's time for some more hardware. That was like an amuse-bouche of hardware before. This is the real stuff.
A moose.
Love it. Amuse-bouche.
Amuse-bouche.
Aperitif.
A moose-bouche of hardware. Well, I hope you're hungry for the entree. Now we've got 3 lovely entrees for you. First up, I got to tell you, I was in the city earlier today, that being Manhattan, New York City, the original city. And I just love my Nothing ear stick earbuds. I don't know if you've gotten a chance to play with them or take a look at them or not, but I got them. I evangelized them. Huyn got them. You like them, right?
I love them.
I was on the subway. Stuff just sounded so good. I was so happy with them. Juan, have you seen them in person or?
No, I haven't gotten to play with them yet. I have a bunch of friends that are rocking them right now. I'm kind of backlogged on some other audio kit, so I'm gonna hopefully catch up over the holidays. Well,
I would love to hear what you think of them, but it's got me pretty. I was actually literally on the subway today going, I'm pretty excited about Nothing. I'd like to see what they have up their sleeve.
So you've gotten over the whole jokiness of the name at this point. You're kind of like, oh, whatever. They're called Nothing.
It's a thing. Yeah, we got to listen. We have to move on. It's like I mean, Jason, how many years did we play with the Huawei? Yeah, the H's, the
Huawei watch, the
Huawei watch, all that stuff, wah. But so I was on the subway and I'm like, oh wow, I wonder what Nothing's got coming up next. And sure enough, today, I was speculating, would there be a Nothing 2 phone? But there's not going to be one for a while. Actually, Nothing CEO Carl Pei, formerly of OnePlus fame, but now Nothing CEO, went on to Twitter and said, Phone 2 isn't launching anytime soon. We're focused on doing a few things well and won't churn out dozens of products a year like many others. Phone 1 is our main focus. We're cooking something really great in terms of software, Android 13 and beyond, which has got me pretty excited. That's pretty cool, but I'm still kind of wah-wah because it's not available in the US. But Pei said in an interview with CNBC that the company is in early talks with U.S. carriers to bring their phone to the U.S. So, Carl Pei, get that phone over in the U.S. I already got the earbuds. I'm ready for the LED strip thing that looks like an iPhone wireless charging case. But yeah, let's do it. Come on. I'm on board.
How easy is it for a company like Nothing that only has a single smartphone to actually bust into carrier stores? I guess it depends on the carrier, right?
It depends on the carrier.
I would imagine it's got to be exceedingly difficult.
Yeah. I mean, it took OnePlus years of building their catalog. I mean, maybe within there was their own resistance, because for the longest time they were really playing up the enthusiast brand thing. I wonder if there was resistance internally to doing the carrier thing early on, like they wanted to kind of like buck the trend. And then at some point that's, they have tons of presence in carrier stores now, but I would just be really surprised if Nothing's like, our second phone ever. in the history of the company, and here it is in the Verizon store.
You would hope that Carl Pei has some avenues of communication.
That's true.
Right? Like he has done this dance before.
Done this before.
Yep.
So, but again, I think Nothing's problem is going to be manufacturing at scale to the ability to put phones on store shelves in the United States. Because I'm sure if you break out any kind of carrier, even if it's like a low-cost carrier, like a Nothing phone showing up in like a Boost Mobile type of thing makes a lot of sense in my brain.
Right.
That you still have to be able to say like, hey, you were going to build these phones. The carrier is going to get an incredible deal because now the carrier is the customer, not the end user. So you've got to be able to build at scale with enough of a profit padding that you can eat the deal for the carrier so the carrier can sell them at a profit.
The carrier can make money. Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Right.
And I think that's going to be the biggest challenge for any brand that's looking at trying to work in the United States is it's phenomenally difficult now to try and get consumers to take a step outside their carrier store and look at any unlocked phones. 5G is definitely making that even more prohibitive with, what 5G phone works on which carrier service. So now the only way to do this is to say, hey, we can really give you a stonking great deal, maybe even like razor thin margins for nothing, and then try and build up from there. So yeah, I would imagine it's a lot of doing. It's a lot of shaking hands and politicking to get that to work now.
The Nothing Phone 1 announced July this year, released mid-July. I'm curious to know how many they've sold. Like, I don't know that we have that number. I'm doing some searching, but my Google Foo is coming up empty.
Does anybody in the UK or Europe that listens or watches the show, have you seen a Nothing Phone in the wild? Like, because that's the big, for me, that's the big indicator is that anybody buying into it. I'm sure someone is, right? But it's, given the limited kind of countries that it's available in,
right.
Let's see those reports, So.
And that's a phone that's unmistakable. If you see that in the wild, you're like, oh yeah. I mean, if you're in the know, but even if you're not in the know, you see that phone and you're like, what the heck is going on there? Like it looks like no other phone. It's very.
And I'd imagine a lot of people are like, oh, ew, the back glass fell off of your phone.
Yeah, right. Is your phone broken?
Oh no.
Your phone's broke. Yeah,
I can see all your phone guts. Ew.
Yes, it looks like nothing else. That's right. Interesting. Okay, well, you're gonna have to wait. Sorry, if you want a Nothing, you're gonna have to get the Nothing one.
I would say it's the right time to push pause though, because the mid-ranger market is really steady. Qualcomm just announced the 780, whatever their new mid-ranger SoC is going to be. So you're not going to be sacrificing much to kind of hang out in this sort of $400-ish space. I think Nothing's timing couldn't have been better, waiting to see what might kind of happen in that sort of manufacturing space, in the silicon space. So they've got plenty of time to sort of work out the deals and make sure everything's on the up and up and to get their yields looking good for an American market.
Yeah. Yep. Cool.
Well, Ron mentioned it that usually when we used to talk about Carl Pei, we were actually talking about OnePlus. And in fact, OnePlus made some news last week by updating, not as sexy as a new phone, but announcing a change to its update policy. So last week, OnePlus announced that they're actually going to improve their support policy and that all OnePlus flagship phones from 2023 onward will provide 4 major OS updates and 5 years of security updates. And this, of course, matches the Samsung flagship update promise that we talked about like earlier when it happened. And, that's actually pretty good. So that kind of puts them in line with probably one of the better, support plans and promises that are out there, especially for flagship phones. So anybody who hasn't been so happy with OnePlus lately, you kind of got that going for you, a brand new policy. Of course, we don't really have any word yet on whether this new kind of more improved update policy, support policy will affect, previous flagship phones. And of course, it most glaringly, it doesn't seem to be impacting or affecting low and mid-range OnePlus phones like the Nord. So, I guess take what you can get, but it seems to be like that OnePlus is following along with Samsung's lead of at least giving their flagships the benefit of an extended support policy. And on that note, we got OnePlus, we got Samsung. Our very own J.R. Rayfield of Android Intelligence actually kind of, in light of all these companies, these kind of like popular manufacturers updating support policies to be a little bit longer and increase the longevity of phones. JR wrote a really great post basically calling out Google for their their upgrade policy. And I think, you should go and read JR's write-up. It's really good. And I think he makes some great points. And JR basically says, he believes that the Pixel is still, one of the best Android, is the premier Android experience out there. But, Google keeps playing catch up in terms of, support policy. And, way back with Pixel 2, you kind of got 3 years of both OS and security updates. And of course, with the Pixel 6 last year, Google did up that to 3 years of OS updates and 5 years security. But the ante keeps being upped. The support war is currently being won now by Samsung and OnePlus. And I think Jared makes a really good point, is that kind of the role that he sees of the Pixel is to be kind of a North Star, a kind of aspirational, device. It's Google showing the best of what, Android can be. And so why isn't that including the support side of it as well? Because that's just as much a part of the consumer experience as the actual phone itself. So definitely check that out. But I think it's a really good point to make. What do y'all think? Why can't Google just match, its kind of competitors in this market with support? Why is it still just, 3 and 5? Why can't it be 4 and 5? What's the problem there? Is this a problem with the market, or I don't know?
I think Google needs to step up. I think that they have, personally, I feel like they have the responsibility to be there with the leaders, at least be there on par with what Samsung and OnePlus are doing. Because I feel like a commitment that you make around an update policy illustrates how you really feel about your hardware. If you are committed to hardware that's going to last for 5 years, I, as a consumer, feel more convinced to buy your product because I know that the company stands behind it for 5 years. And if other companies, what do you mean? What if they don't?
But what if they're we're 3 years, we're good?
What, making a promise of 4 and then saying 3?
Yeah, or making a promise of 3 or 4, or holding on to 4. What if this is the line of what they believe is their product life cycle?
So Google right now believes that 3 years of system updates, 5 years of security is what they were promising, is what they're willing to put on their Pixel phones. They did that before Samsung came out and said, well, we'll do 4 years of major OS updates and 5 years security. I have a hard time seeing Google say, oh, okay, well, they can be better than us here. It's kind of like put your money where your mouth is.
I guess I'm just playing devil's advocate, by the way, Jason. I'm not arguing, but
I feel so insulted.
they've clearly run some sort of numbers to say this is what we're comfortable with and this is the position that we're happy with. And Google's not a Me Too kind of company. Everyone, they're trying to, Samsung or OnePlus are trying to differentiate themselves in the marketplace by adding on years in there, but Google has whatever formula they have that they're comfortable with.
Yeah.
I don't know.
One of the things that I think gets us really emotionally charged is when we talk about these companies as if it's like old man Google and Mr. Samsung, and there's one guy who's just pulling the lever and says,
there's definitely a lawn.
That's what I feel comfortable doing.
There's
I'll just do
a lawn
3.
that they're standing on. Yeah.
And they're wagging their fists at each other from across a street, Hatfields and McCoys. So I can make... for myself personally, as I've been going through so many phones over the last couple of years, and we've seen some shaky update strategies from Android 10 to now Android 13, I kind of side more with this notion of make the more modest promise on operating system updates, but what really matters to the phone's longevity is better efficiency, better optimization, bug fixes, patches, and security. And we see, especially when we go and visit our non-as techie family and friends, there's still this mental idea of, well, I ran this update, now my phone ran slower. And that was legitimately an issue back in the day, with battery throttling and CPU throttling. So we're kind of getting over that hump too. But I kind of think Google is making a more reasonable promise with 3 years OS and 5 years security. try and imagine where we would have been on hardware from 4 or 5 years ago, now trying to run Android 13. And I don't think you're really offering a consumer the best experience with that. We don't know. And I think Google's being fair here. I don't think Google can properly predict, even though they control the Android ecosystem as we sort of understand it today. What are we going to be doing in 4 years? What's a Tensor 6 going to look like when we're trying to build the next generation of operating system for the newest flavor of hardware? But then we're on this commitment that we have to support 4 and 5-year-old phones as well. And I think you do genuinely, I think it's more honest to say, hey, we're really looking at these 3 years, but then we want to make sure that those people, because there's that what do you call that curve? Peak of the bell curve, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. So for everybody, everyone who's like me, who would have been flipping their phone every 6 months, there are many, many more people that are trying to hold on to their phones for like 3 and 4 years. But once you start getting to 4 and 5 years, do you want to mess with that person's phone with new operating system, new features, new graphics engines, new material design, much heavier load on system resources just to drive the UI? Or do you want to promise them that you're going to be optimizing and polishing that experience so the last 2 years of that phone's life, for people who might not even be able to get a battery replaced, that's as good as it's ever going to be? I don't know that you get the best experience when you go back to like a Galaxy S10 and you're pushing through Android 12. My Galaxy S10e ran like hot garbage when it first started getting that Android 12 update. And I was upset because it was running like butter on Android 11. I feel like this is a reasonable window. And then if they fall back on that, like if Samsung puts out a 4th year of OS updates and it's not running great, those are the phones that aren't going to get a lot of headlines. But the people who own those phones are going to be pissed. Yeah, we're not going back and making video after video after video about Galaxy S9s. That's the window that we'd be looking at. So it looks bad on paper, but I genuinely think that's probably a better consumer experience over the life, a 5-year life of a product like that.
That's a good good counter. I like that a lot, and that makes a lot of sense. I guess the only thing that pops in my head in response to that is that, okay, well then why is Apple able to pull it off? Like they can do it,
but they don't. Oh, no. See, Jason, I'm so glad you brought that up, because look at when you get updates to older iPhones, you increasingly start leaving features behind.
Well, yes.
By the time you get to like 4 years of iOS updates, you're basically putting a new number on the iOS and it's just descending down into more like bug fixy kind of territory. And we also have that issue with battery health and the way that Apple likes to throttle their products. They disclose it now, but really it's slowing everything down. You got to go and get your battery replaced if you want full performance again. So, iOS 14 is not the same. I'm sorry, iOS 16 is not the same on an iPhone 14 as it is on an iPhone 11. And it's not the same as it is on an iPhone SE, and it's not the same as it is on a 10S. Yeah. So Pixels are a different beast, because Pixels genuinely pick up more features as they go along. And I don't think even Google can properly predict where they're going to be in 4 years.
Yeah, it's that prediction is the really hard thing, right? It's like, you're right. If I was to pull one of my legacy phones off the shelf, in my office and install today's OS, like that sounds like a nightmare scenario to me, like just begging for trouble, because even back then, 2 OS updates, I would notice a difference. What I wonder is, does Google have any sort of calculus around it? Like it basically controls the Tensor experience, or the Tensor development for the most part. Have they done enough work around it to be able to safely project? Like, can any of these companies safely project into the future and say, 4 OS updates and it's going to be running okay? Or are they just saying 4? And it's like, well, you asked for it, but like you said,
I kind of feel from my experiences with Samsung, you get to those later updates, and I have not enjoyed them. It's not exciting to get the new operating system on there. But we started this conversation talking about OnePlus, and we just got Android 13, the new Oxygen OS, an entirely new animation engine, and I've got a OnePlus 8 Pro, a OnePlus 9 Pro, and my OnePlus 10 Pro all triggered at the same time. This new animation engine is gorgeous. And on the OnePlus 9 Pro and the OnePlus 10 Pro, this is running phenomenally well. These are some of the prettiest phones I've ever used. My OnePlus 8 Pro, I think I need to hard reset it. It is not taking this new update as well as the two newer phones. And so a lot of what's going into this graphics processing, I believe, was tuned up first for these new big core, big CPU, big GPU SoCs, and that's not what's on the OnePlus 8 Pro. So I feel like my OnePlus 8 Pro is struggling a little bit. So this is year 3. What's going to happen with year 4? I maybe don't want that on my OnePlus 8 Pro, because it was actually, I feel, kind of running better on the last generation of Oxygen OS, where my OnePlus 9 Pro is running like a screamer. It's just a hot rod right now. Yeah. So those types of things, like as you look at how the semiconductor industry is changing, how you look at how consumer software is changing, and we're putting a lot more load on 120 hertz refresh rate displays, cleaner and smoother animations, new graphics packages, new material design, all of these new UI elements. I don't know that any company can see a roadmap more than another 2 phones ahead to say, like, what can we realistically support? I think a lot of these companies that are making 3 and 4 year promises are going to get to that 3rd and 4th year, and we're going to see some consumers struggling with the output that these companies really give us.
Yeah, I'll be super curious about that. And then this ties into the next story, because one of the first phones in OnePlus, if not the first phone in OnePlus catalog that will offer the 4 years of major OS updates, is the OnePlus 11. Their usual cadence is early year for the most part. I want to say like March-ish time period for their flagship. Renders are leaking at this point, so we're starting to get more details about the OnePlus 11. 2 colors: Forest Emerald, Volcanic Black, 120 hertz AMOLED display, Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 processor, up to 16 gigs of RAM. And I'll come back to that in a second. Camera bump, which is like a large circular camera bump, 3 cameras and an LED flash. Hasselblad branding there. I think it was the 10T was the latest one that didn't have the Hasselblad labeling. And it was like, oh, well, maybe they're done with Hasselblad. Apparently they're not. That's coming back if these renders are to be believed. 5,000 milliamp hour battery, 100 watt charging, so super fast charging on a large battery. Going back to the RAM and kind of tying in with what we were just talking about, one question that comes to mind is 4 years down the line, fourth OS update comes to a phone. Does it matter more the processor that's in there or the amount of RAM? Because if a phone has 16 gigs of RAM right now, I have to imagine that's pretty solid 4 years from now still. That might be kind of, you know what I mean? Like the movement over time of the amount of RAM. Like I feel like suddenly smartphones really jumped in the amount of capable RAM that's ending into some of these flagships. And that's probably going to help long term though, right?
Yeah. I care more about RAM than CPU. Yeah. Unless it's like a drastic difference, I'm always going to care about RAM, because if anything gets me, it's like my processor, not to get too dev jargony, but like, memory errors and like not being able, especially like in our kind of more media focused, like video photo thing, not having enough RAM is going to kill you faster than a CPU. Like there's not really, except for very specialized applications, there's not a lot in a lot of modern apps that really need a freaking fast CPU, maybe like graphics stuff, maybe, I don't know, like something that really requires a lot of computation. Memory is going to be where it's at. Mm-hmm. So
and also with the barring a really low cost, low end, like lower than mid range phone, because of Moore's law, all the processors are going to be at a level that are a competitive growth kind of progress there. And so, it goes back, Jason, you've heard me say this over the years, but it goes back, back in the 80s when my dad explained to me the computer industry. He said, that there's a computer for $500, a computer for $1,000, a computer for $1,500, and it's always going to be those prices. It's just what the $1,000 one will be $500 in 2 years, and the next thing will be it just shifts in terms of what you get on those things, and it's so true. And that's what's going to happen, is that the processors will keep doubling or keep going, but RAM, it goes back to when people were building PCs back in beige box days. I'm like, spend your money on RAM. You'll thank me later.
Yeah,
that's
always boost it. Yeah.
I'll throw the devil's advocate on this one too.
All right, do it.
So when we're, and again, because we're talking about not being able to predict the future, I don't believe the system requirements of an operating system are going to be a major issue. So, but now when we're talking like 8 to 16 gigs of RAM in a phone, now I think your biggest issue is going to be battery health. The phone can't properly power itself, then you don't get the benefits of all of that hardware, and you're going to get throttled, and that's going to be a poor experience.
Very true.
What I don't know that we'll see over the next 4 years, I think we're going to keep seeing modest CPU and GPU growth, but I think we're going to see this continued ratcheting of machine learning, ASICs, ISPs, all of the little co-processors that go inside. So in 4 years, if we have a whole bunch of new services that are stapled to this operating system that are now leveraging 4 years in the future machine learning hardware, then an older phone like this, it won't matter how much RAM it has. It won't really matter how much brute force CPU compute power it has. It will feel sluggish because it's not being able to leverage as many of these machine learning capabilities. That to me is the danger going into the future right now.
Yep.
We are grossly overpowered for CPU and GPU right now. Where a lot of these manufacturers are really trying to step up and build new experiences, and what the whole promise of the Tensor is going to be is better machine learning, better AI, better predictive, better on-device capabilities. So you're not sending as much information up to the cloud to process in real time. And all of that 4 years from now, I bet you will probably only see about another 20% change to CPU performance with maybe hopefully a 15% reduction in power. But the machine learning stuff is going to be off the charts.
So what we really need at the end of the day is we need Google to bring back Project Ara. And
yes,
then we can modularly we can upgrade our phone over time, and it won't matter.
Hard agree.
Please, that's what I want for Christmas, Jason.
I know you keep asking, but Google keeps not.
I
listening.
want it too.
Before we move on though, Jason, don't you miss the days of the OnePlus marketing mistakes?
Yeah, they're a little too sparkly now.
A little too buttoned up, a little too professional. Back in the day, the old days, OnePlus was a very entertaining phone company to cover because they took risks, and sometimes it blew up in their face, and sometimes it didn't.
Yeah.
But
the number of days since a recent OnePlus,
the sign we had a sign number. It's been 3 weeks since OnePlus marketing screw up.
At this point, it's years. I don't even know the last time.
It's been years. It's honestly, I think it might have been Carl Pei. I think he might have been the mischief maker there.
So we should reignite this with nothing once it starts happening over there.
So, memories. I love OnePlus. But before we go down even more memory lane, I don't know. We're going to take a break and thank our next sponsor of the evening, because this episode of All About Android is brought to you by HPE GreenLake, orchestrated by the experts at CDW. And listen, the people at CDW understand that your organization needs simple management over its big data. But with workloads remaining on-prem due to legacy systems, it can feel challenging to organize and optimize your data. But that's where CDW can help your organization by consolidating and managing all your data in one flexible, unified experience with the HPE GreenLake Edge-to-Cloud platform. The experience you'll get with HPE GreenLake is unique because no matter where your data or applications live, you can free up energy and resources with automated processes and streamlined management, and we can all use more streamlined things, right? Lord knows I could. Not only that, HPE GreenLake creates a seamless cloud experience among multiple data environments thanks to the as-a-service model that meets your remote workforce at the edge. And with unrivaled scalability, you'll see an instant increase in capacity, allowing for greater flexibility and accelerated business growth so your team can tackle bigger priorities like innovation, because innovation is super important. So when it comes to streamlined management, HPE makes data transformation possible. CDW makes it powerful. Learn more at cdw.com/HPE. That's cdw.com/HPE. And we thank HPE GreenLake and the folks at CDW for their support of All About Android. Get on it.
Get on it. You know what? We're going to get on the apps segment.
The app train.
The app train. Let's get on it right now. Woo, woo!
if we ever if Jeff Kosmicki ever wants to redo these bumpers, I would be in 100%. My good friend Jeff Kosmicki, by the way, I would be in 100% support of the app train becoming the new segment title for this, because Lord knows we are on the app train, and first diving in with Google Wallet. We love to make fun of Google Wallet, but so Google Wallet. The Google Wallet beta in certain states in the United States are going to allow users to start testing digital IDs, which basically means digital driver's licenses and state IDs. This is crazy. Oh. First announced back in May, and one of the key reasons for the redesign and renaming of Wallet. We were speculating months ago about why did they change it. Here it is. The update is rolling out with Google Play Services version 48.22 for December, according to the changeling posted on the Google System Updates support page. This is likely the foundational work that will be tapped into at some point when Wallet is updated to support it. That's pretty wild, huh?
Future stuff, man. Future stuff.
You see your driver's license and Apple Wallet on the iOS side?
There are states that are now rolling it out as a pilot program. So I'm really glad to see Google finally making some noise about this, because I don't want one company
to be able to do it in
charge of digital wallet. Yeah, this is something where we need companies sort of fighting this out to create a standard that no one organization can control.
Yep. Like RCS. What? I'm sorry. So it's neat. I'll load my driver's license in if New York's one of the participating states. Hopefully they are. So.
Sure. I'll do that too.
My plea is still like, this is definitely going to be a thing that happens. We're going to start turning to our pocket computers to take care of all of this stuff. People who watch and listen to podcasts like this, please sit down with your family and friends and start preparing them now for better device security, locking their phones down, understanding like the ramifications. We have sort of law enforcement across the country that I'm not sure will always respect those rules between what is a PIN, what is a password, what's a face unlock, what's a biometric security lock, unreasonable search and seizure. There are going to be a lot of these conversations that we have to struggle through as the technology races forward. So now would be a good time just to start planting some of those seeds, just having those conversations, making sure people are using good passwords. Just best practices, and reinforcing that and helping people kind of button their data down.
Yeah, actually in Colorado, there's already a My Colorado app where you can get digital versions of your state ID and your vaccine card already. So it's already here. The app is pretty good, but not great. But yes, that is very... And for the reasons that Juan just mentioned, it is important then to kind of be careful with it. It is your state ID. I looked at it. It's basically all the information that would be on your driver's license if you have a driver's license or non-driver's license state ID. And yeah, obviously like your vaccine record is your medical record, like other things like that are sensitive information. So be careful. And state apps, state governments, they do their best, but the app's okay, just okay. So definitely protect yourself.
Same situation here in New York. We have the Excelsior wallet that's mainly just for our digital vaccination, and it's fine. Like it's not great, but it's not awful. Like it's not But curious if they expand it out and if they're laying the groundwork for that. But I gotta admit, I love Google Wallet. I use it all the time. I store all my stuff in there. It does what I need to do. So if this is adding another thing that it can do, then that's great. So.
My Google Wallet told me. Sorry.
Oh, I was going to say the convenience is definitely a thing. We had a mention in the chat. We don't have the social structure. Like you give your license and registration to a police officer. So now are we training police officers on how to appropriately handle smartphones that have all of this data on them?
That feels like a can of worms.
Those conversations need to happen because Ron's point is spot on. I want it. I want the convenience of everything being controlled and optimized and handled through the device that I kind of live my life out of. But we as a society have not figured out all of those little sticking points for how do we deal in the economy with all of our data being on this device, and then now all of our documents and all of our personal records and all of our medical information and all of this we've got to sort it out, and it's going to be sorted out in real time while we're doing it. The best place to start is right now, at least getting your smartphone security sort of strategy better in place. And, way too many of your family and friends who maybe aren't even using like a swipe to unlock the screen gesture. They push the power button and it's just all right there. Yeah, so try to disavow them of that. Try to dissuade them that that's an okay way to handle their phone.
But it's harder. But it's slower.
Right.
It's a really good point. Like, honestly, actually, the thing that I dislike the most about My Colorado, and I haven't used it since I think I got my bivalent booster, is that it's still a web app. And so I had to log in and I couldn't log in. Like, and so what is the legal ramification of, I'm sorry, officer, I can't log in to show you my license and I don't have my paper / plastic license anymore. What are the contingencies for that? Because that's, I mean, on my, I don't know, like on my, Spotify or music listening app, it's okay if I can't log in. I mean, it kind of sucks, but when you're in a situation where you need identified information and the service fails, what are you supposed to do? What are your options? You just like, hold on, I'm going to go walk over here and hope that the 5G is just slightly better over here, or call, mycolorado.com and be like, yo, can you like fix the service like right now? Cause it's a little bit of an important situation. I mean, if it's little, I know it sounds stupid, but that's actually like a thing that would happen. This is technology. It's built by people. Stuff like this happens. So perfect. I think that, the legal ramifications, are important. It's kind of just like the thing with like self-driving cars, like all those little like legal details and things like that. And that's more of a heavy, kind of serious thing about liability and like, AI and things like that. But it's all these like little like all these little decisions and all these little scenarios that need to be ironed out that, need to be ironed out.
All the social conventions we just totally take for granted.
Oh, right.
And our phone is going to disrupt all of them.
Yeah. No technology works perfectly 100% of the time. What works usually 100% of the time is, what we're doing right now when we carry our ID with us in our pocket. And, it works all the times that I'm able to reach my hand into my pocket and pull out my wallet, or reach, the hand into the purse to pull out, whatever. Like, it's just, technology is a very different beast. No, as good as it'll ever be, there will always be a 0.00%, 1% chance of something not working the way it was intended to. And, over the amount of people that we have in this country, just using this country as the example, that's not a small number, even if it's that. So, yeah. Interesting stuff. Well, check this out. Tell me if you've heard this before. iMessage on Android.
Here we go again.
That's the sound of my eye rolling. Well, there's a company called Sunbird that thinks they have a method that isn't awkward. It's not cumbersome like some of the solutions that we've talked about on this show many times in the past. They claim setup of iMessage and Sunbird only requires, 1, an Android phone, and 2, 60 seconds of your time. No Apple device, no desktop software to act as a conduit for all this stuff, which has largely been what other solutions have done. You set up a spare iPhone to relay messages from iMessage, or your Mac, is always on at home relaying messages, that sort of thing. Sunbird is not really telling yet exactly how this is done in the beta.
Even better.
But great. Users can sign up for the beta, of course, to get started. I signed up. I'm only number 36,190, so that's good. Sunbird assures that their solution does not store credentials or act as a relay service. Therefore, they claim that to store no user data at all whatsoever on their servers. The service is going to be free initially. No immediate plans to monetize, though they'll evaluate later. So that's a little weird. It's like, hey, everybody get to use this. And then somewhere down the line, it's like, oh, all right, it's time to pay up. But hey, that's just another business approach to business, I suppose. So how do we feel about this totally seemingly impossible-ish promise that Sunbird is making here. We have no information other than the fact that they say it's nothing like the solutions that have been done in the past. Like, the question I have is, well, is it legal? Because any of this sounds like not legal to me. But what do you all think?
No, I'm big nope until I know how it works and what they're doing with my Apple credentials. And because exactly what you're saying, it feels like I'm technically violating Apple's end user licensing agreement.
Yeah, it could
if
be.
I'm engaging with a third party entity that is now taking my login and my Apple account to then communicate on Apple's iMessage servers. And there are just too many unknowns for me. I'm going to sit back. I'm fascinated to sit back and watch this, but I'm not jumping in until we know, because and then as soon as we know, there's nothing to stop Apple from saying, well, now we're changing one API or some server protocol or some communication standard that's just going to pull the plug on all of this. And it's not like we haven't seen Apple be that kind of directly punitive to other developers in the past.
Especially with something as valuable to them as iMessage.
Yeah.
It would be really funny if they were just like spoofing the client, that, you know what I mean, like just literally like a string that says, oh, yes, I'm an iPhone. You know what I mean? Like, because usually when you send like requests across the internet, a lot of times
it's just an app with a mustache, and it's like, oh, I'm an iPhone.
Basically what it is. Just being like, yes, I'm an iPhone. Yes.
My name is Tim Cook. Let me give you my messages.
It's a blue mustache too. Definitely not a green mustache.
Oh, no, yes, absolutely.
Hello, my name is Apple Device.
Oh, that's so great. I love it.
That would be really funny though if someone found a loophole like that where you could just like change a text string and then just like, hey, iMessage works. I doubt that that's how that works, but it would be funny if it was.
All we're doing with the app is emulating iOS from the ground up. That's all we're doing. We're running iMessage in a window.
That's legal, right?
Yeah,
that's
that's fine, right?
Yeah.
I guess
when that changing a string reminds me of back in the day, we used to be able to edit the executable of PC games with Norton Utilities and change values in the hex code to give you like a limited lives.
Those were the days. Those
Good
were the
times.
days.
Editing my save files and stuff.
Yeah,
That's
you
when
kids
cheating
listening,
was
you have no
fun.
idea what I'm talking about, but man, we got into the hex code and we were able to change.
Yeah,
stuff.
that was like
awesome.
magic,
Good
man.
times.
Yeah, it was really cool.
That was amazing. Love it. All right, Wayne, you got the last one.
Well, how about we talk about some pretty sure that we're legitimate apps, not to kind of like, diss on Sunbird just yet before we know, but let's talk about some definitely okay apps. And because, Google Play has released or actually lists the best Android apps and games of 2022. I thought this was really interesting because maybe in this post-Rona world, I think we're all thinking a lot more these days about our, mental health, our physical health, like taking care of ourselves. Like the world's kind of on fire, figuratively and literally. And so a lot of the best of 2022 seem to be kind of like in the vein of, self-care, like taking, things that will help you kind of, manage the stress of day-to-day life. But I mean, the first one on the list is Best for Fun, is PetStar. I had not heard of this. So I think the one that most stood out for me that is not kind of like what I just mentioned is like more like a self-care type app is PetStar, where you can take video of your pet and then have them lip sync to your song of choice. And I believe share that video. It's like DJ karaoke for your pets. And so that one for Best of Fun. And then I would definitely check out a lot of the other apps are kind of in a vein of self-care though. Like the Best for Personal Growth is something called Breathwork, which is, as it may seem, kind of like breathing techniques. There's a lot of like workout apps. The Best in Hidden Gems is something from Strava, which already has a very successful app for runners and bikers. I use it. My husband uses it. Recover Athletics is more about recovery where, you know, if you're like someone who works out a lot, runs a lot like Ron, or works out a lot like myself, you need to recover. So there's like an app that provides free workouts. Best app for good was really interesting, which is called the Stigma app. I'm not crazy about the name, but you know, a lot of times these days we talk about the stigma of mental health and mental illness. The Stigma app actually is a way for people to share their mental illness and mental health stories and try to remove the stigma of mental health. I totally get it. And I love the app. I'm not sure about the name, but you know, again, kind of in the vein of like trying to, you know, help us as people and as humans, you know, kind of deal with the big and the hard struggle, the big and the small struggles. Yeah. And if in the everyday essentials category, if you are a plant parent like me, you now have a plant parent app. And I absolutely love this. There is an app that lets you kind of help your plants maybe not die. It's an app that lets you do MI-based identification of plants, which is like a total thing. And it's like, there's a total, like every time you go on Reddit, half the time if you go to a plant subreddit, there's like ID please, and someone posts a picture of their plant because they have no idea what they just bought at Home Depot. They just want to know like how to take care of it. So if you're a plant parent, there is literally an app for you now. And kind of other things in this category are also like, you know, waking up stuff, your daily diary, sleep tracker, all kind of, again, all these digital wellness things. And they also had categories for best wear, best app for tablets, and best Chromebook apps. Best app for wear was unsurprisingly Todoist. We've talked about Todoist quite a bit. It's
the only app for wear.
Sorry. It's the only app. And again, we've talked about how Todoist, after they did a redesign using Wear for, or Compose, Drink for Wear, that they experienced a 50% increase in installs. Well, related to that, they are now the app of the year for Wear OS. And also it's just a really great, you know, get things done app. Best for tablets is an app that we have mentioned before, not necessarily in the news, but I know like Jason mentioned he used Pocket and I use Pocket as well. Mm-hmm. I also have a very good friend that works at it. Hi, Marcin. Congratulations on Best for Tablets. But yeah, if you need to store stuff like just bits of information, links or whatever, Pocket's really great for that. And apparently it works well on tablets. And finally, Best for Chromebooks is BandLab, which...
Oh, BandLab's fun.
BandLab, yeah. It kind of gives me like, I mean, I haven't used Bandcamp in a long time, but it kind of gives me those vibes, like very nice interface for recording.
Yeah, it's a lot like Bandcamp actually, but just like in the cloud. Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, it even has a looper and things like that. So yeah,
not the Bandcamp, not the Bandcamp, the hosting platform, but Bandcamp, the music.
No, sorry, Bandcamp, the Mac.
Yes,
the
right,
Mac,
right.
Yeah,
right.
Audio software. Yeah, so there's a lot of great apps, a lot of stuff that I have never
GarageBand, not
GarageBand.
Bandcamp.
Yeah, I was going to say.
You said that, and I was like, wait a minute.
No, it didn't come out. Yeah, Bandcamp is sorry.
GarageBand.
You know what I was talking about, but we just
I had a feeling it was GarageBand, but I wasn't sure that there wasn't another one called Bandcamp. I'm pretty sure Bandcamp.
I kept calling it Bandcamp in my head. My bad. GarageBand. Yeah. So it's very reminiscent of GarageBand and UI. I haven't used GarageBand in like 15 years, but yeah. I find it interesting they still have Best for Chromebooks, just because. Anyway, Chromebooks are a little hot here, but hey, there's a great app for it if you happen to still have a Chromebook around. But yeah, I would definitely check out the list. There's a lot of really interesting stuff, and again, like a big heavy focus on digital and actual well-being. So a lot of good stuff this year in the best of 2022.
All right. Well, that's a good set of apps, good games and apps in 2022. Go check it out on Google Play. Get the whole list. See how many you have on yourself. But for now, we're going to turn to our good friend JR for his latest Android intelligence tip. And I got a hint for you. If you like sharing and dropping things, you're going to like this tip. So JR, why don't you tell us give us some learning.
Hey. All right. So last week we talked about some standout tools for simple sharing of text between your phone and whatever kind of computer you're using. Today, as promised, I want to keep that same theme going. I want to introduce you to a really awesome little app that'll help you move any kind of file from your phone to a computer or vice versa in a way that's simple, easy, and secure. So again, remember, for context, yes, Google does have its own native system for handling this sort of stuff now. It's called Nearby Share. You've probably seen it on your phone at some point. But the issue there is that it's available only on Android and Chrome OS, at least for now. So sure, if you've got multiple Android devices or an Android phone and a Chromebook, hey, easy enough. Use Nearby Share, you're all set. But if you're using Android alongside a Windows, Linux, or Mac computer, or even dare I say an iOS device, well, Nearby Share isn't going to do you a lick of good. So allow me to introduce you to a brilliant little tool called ShareDrop. ShareDrop. It's basically just a website. You pull it up in your browser on any device you're using. And what happens is your device gets assigned its own random unique name and avatar. When any other device on the same Wi-Fi network opens the site, you'll see its name and avatar pop up right there on the page. You can then click on any device to send a file its way. You can even just drag and drop a file directly onto it if you're on the computer side of things and want an even faster way to get a transfer going. Either way, once the other device accepts the transfer, that's it. The file's sent and you are all done. Now, here's where it gets really cool. ShareDrop also makes it super easy to send files between devices on two different networks, or even in two completely different physical locations. All you've got to do there is hit the little plus icon in the site's upper right corner. That'll create a special link you can then share with any other device to establish a direct connection and then transfer files back and forth without any real effort, just like in the other scenario. Now, a couple important footnotes to this. First, everything you transfer with ShareDrop is sent securely over an encrypted peer-to-peer connection. That means ShareDrop itself doesn't ever see any of your stuff, and nothing you send is ever stored on any remote servers or anything like that. And since the whole thing is open source, you can actually even poke through the code yourself if you're so inclined, just to confirm that it's doing exactly what it says it'll do. Nice bit of added assurance from that. And ShareDrop's completely free to use, though its developer does accept donations to help cover the cost of keeping the service up and running. All you've got to do to try it out is head over to its website at sharedrop.io. We'll drop a link into this week's show notes too to make it especially easy for you to find. And hey, while we're talking about links worth visiting, don't forget to come check out my Android Intelligence newsletter to get tips like this directly in your inbox. I send out 3 new things to try every Friday, completely free for you. Just head over to androidintel.net/twit to get in on the action. That site again is androidintel.net/twit. I'll see you there, and I'll see you right back here next week.
Yeah, you will. Like you always do. Thank you, JR. ShareDrop. I hadn't heard of ShareDrop. Sharedrop.io, right? ShareDrop.
What a handy tip. He's full of them. He's full of the tips.
So many.
He's so full of it.
He's so full of those tips.
It being the tips.
Hey.
Are we not doing phrasing anymore? Is that just off the...
Look, I just had to define what it is. And by it, I mean the tips. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, cool interface.
You made it worse.
Just digging the hole deeper. All right. Hey, I've got a great idea. Why don't we talk about some feedback, read some feedback from you guys so you can dig a hole for yourselves. But first, this episode of All About Android is brought to you by Code Comments, an original podcast from Red Hat. You already love podcasts. I've got another great podcast for you to check out. You know, when you're working on a project and you leave behind just a little small reminder in the code, if you're a developer, you know what I'm talking about, a code comment to help others learn from your work. Well, this podcast takes that idea by letting you listen in on 2 experienced technologists as they describe their building process. There's a lot of work that's required to bring a project from whiteboard to development, and no one can really do it alone, right? The host, Burr Sutter, is a Red Hatter and a lifelong developer advocate, as well as a community organizer. And every episode, Burr sits down with experienced technologists from across the industry to trade stories and talk about what they've learned from their experiences. Actually, the first episode talks with David Duncan at Amazon Web Services. And I don't know, I thought it kind of illustrates what it means to work within this open source playground while also working with partners while that development is underway. It's really interesting stuff. Episodes are available anywhere you listen to podcasts, and you can go to redhat.com/codecommentspodcast as well if you like, or you can just search for Code Comments in your podcast player. We're going to include a link in our show notes, but so you can check it out there. But really, just go to your podcast player, your podcatcher of choice, search for Code Comments. You're going to find it, and you're going to love it. My thanks to Code Comments for their support of All About Android. All right. Your feedback, AAA at twit.tv, 347-SHOW-AAA. I've got the first email. It's from Juan in Colombia. Juan says, the past episodes, there was a debacle of photo storing services like Amazon's or Google's. I'm here to offer a third option some people might already have access to. It's Microsoft's OneDrive. Most folks already have either a home or work account with Microsoft 365, formerly Office 365, which gives them 1 terabyte or even more, depending on what plan your company has, of storage for each user, or a total of 6 terabytes for family accounts. That's a lot of cloud storage. This seems more than enough for something either you or your company are already paying for. It has an app for Windows, Mac, Android, iOS. It's accessible via the web. The only thing missing is a photo-only app instead of seeing all your files in the app. Yeah, and I guess that is kind of the big difference between what we were talking about, right? Google Photos, total photo interface, same with Amazon Photos. This is more like I haven't worked with it, but based on what Juan is describing, more of kind of like files access in the cloud. I wonder how they add a little bit of like a visual, like visibility around the photos and everything that you have stored up there. Probably don't have some of those, I'm guessing, some of those advanced features like the AI integrated search and stuff. Maybe they do. But anyways, that's a great recommendation if you have that.
I'll chime in as someone who uses Office 365 at my day job. I wouldn't wish OneDrive on anybody.
Oh, boy. Okay, the counter.
I'll play devil's advocate.
There we go.
Exactly.
Juan from Southern California reaching out to Juan from Colombia. I've really actually kind of liked my Microsoft 365 account and the OneDrive buckets. It's a terabyte of storage. It's been great. We set up Lex on our own little private cloud storage that we can share with family and friends, and we've got like, I want to say almost 400 gig of photos and videos for family to check out what she's up to. So it's been working pretty well.
Nice.
In all joking aside, I was more kidding than that. If you already have a Microsoft account, right, it's another going back to the Amazon.
We got
discussion.
It first because we needed Office, and
right,
so
yeah,
you never get
it's
it
like,
just to get
look,
it on its own.
Yeah, look what I've got that comes with it. How can I utilize it? Yeah, for sure, totally. So I was just being a little snarky with Microsoft.
One funny thing is we might potentially see some difference. So I've got like the Surface Duo 2 here, and the Photos app is basically just a shortcut to the Photos page on OneDrive. So it kind of works like Google Photos, where it's looking through all of your cloud photos, and then you go to the folders that are actually on your phone for the local device storage. So it's not to say that we might never see a dedicated Photos app. It's just it only currently exists in a halfway fashion on the Surface and the Surface 2.
Yeah, right. Well, thank you, Juans, both of you.
Very welcome.
All right, and from Juan to Win.
Oh, that was a good segue.
Yeah,
I
thank
just
you.
landscaped that. Sorry. Well, we next have some feedback from Jonathan from Vermont. To add on the USB-C hub discussion and the Chromecast with Google TV, I have 3 setups like this with add-on hubs with network adapters and add-on storage. You have to be careful about which hubs you buy because not all hubs handle power delivery. Oh my goodness, yes. Also, you cannot use the provided cord and power supply because it will not provide enough power. I believe the provided one only provides 28 watts. You need at least 45 watts. So depending on your situation, you might have to buy another power supply and possibly cable to handle the power needed. Furthermore, not all apps can be moved to the USB storage, even if you add it as main storage to the device and not as portable storage. So depending on the price of your hub and possibly if you have to buy another power supply and cable, you're starting to encroach on the price of the entry-level NVIDIA Shield TV, which is what I probably should have done in the beginning. There's my 2 cents.
That's a good expert tip right there.
Oh my goodness, yes. Power delivery. I get caught up on that a lot. So yes, Jonathan, yes.
Yes. Yeah, that's really valuable information. Wish we had that, had spoke to that last week because it's been a whole week since we talked about these solutions. So, let us know how it went for you if you decided to dive in. All right. And Ron, you have the honors. Oh, from Juan to win to Ron. Whoa, there's like a... Yeah. And Ron, you're muted.
Sorry about that. I was muted. I was all excited. I was too excited to tell you about this week's email of the week from Club Twit member, longtime listener, first-time writer, Mr. David R. Welcome to the club. It's good to have you. Let's get right into it. David R. says, love the show. On episode 603, the email of the week.
I heard Burke scramble for that one.
Mentioned the TicWatch. I ordered the Mobvoi TicWatch Pro 3 GPS that within hours of watching the episode. I've been using it for about 2 weeks now, and I, all caps, love it. It's simple and just works. I love the dual screen functionality. The low power screen is always on, and a color selectable backlight turns on for a few seconds. Turns on for a few seconds with a flick of the wrist. That gives me the date and time, my steps, and the battery level at a glance, which is all I need 80% of the time. With full watch functionality at the press of a button, this is the default configuration, which is recommended for battery life, but can be changed. The step counter, heartbeat, and oxygen sensors seem to work well. I haven't verified accuracy. I haven't used the GPS yet, but the speakerphone and notifications work well. I find I'm leaving my phone in my pocket a lot more now. And David R. says, oh, and I call out Ron. Don't know why. Just seems like the thing to do. And you're absolutely right, David. Just is the thing to do on you emailers. But there's another... Yeah, whatever. I don't know why he's calling me out. I've never even touched a TicWatch, but Juan, you've got it, right?
I'm wearing it right now.
You mentioned it earlier. I was like, oh, this is going to be great later.
Do you concur here, or what are your thoughts?
Absolutely. So there's definitely a hard schism that's happening in Wear OS right now. Android, Google and Samsung kind of partnered up together to get Wear OS 3 out, and they sort of were the first to benefit from that. And now we've seen Fossil just take some of their first baby steps into getting Wear OS 3 out, and Mobvoi has been very quiet. So we can kind of assume what companies have been getting a little bit more support and assistance from Google. It just seems like there's sort of a lopsided software conversation happening right now. But when it comes to just the pure hardware side of this, everything that's listed there are exactly the reasons why I kind of keep coming back to TicWatches. I use my watch as a wearable gatekeeper, so I am not constantly looking at the deluge of notifications that I get on the regular. I legit, with workouts and some sleep tracking, I legit get 2 days of battery life. If I cut the sleep tracking, I can usually push it to 3 days of battery life. It's just a great practical daily driver smartwatch, even if we're not on the bleeding edge of software.
Boom.
There it is.
TicWatch nice. Pro 3 GPS. Not bad. Good work, not David. Bad. Good timing, too, because we had one right here ready to expand.
We couldn't have planned that any better. Again, it is the Android holiday gift that keeps giving. One, it's amazing.
Love it.
So it's like the gift. It's like the gift of the Magi right here, everybody.
But like happy and not as ironic.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Thank you, David, and thank you, Juan. It's always a pleasure getting you on, and especially it's a pleasure for me to have you on at the same time that I'm on. So thank you for coming on to the show today, man.
I love it. This is awesome, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. You're doing a lot of things right now. Somegadgetguy.com, of course, but what else do you want to leave people with?
I'm all over the place. Yeah, somegadgetguy.com is the main home site where I kind of keep all those threads going. I'm still managing our little pet project, Glowing Rectangles, on Reddit. Reddit.com/r/glowing rectangles. Just a community of people that are trying to share content about tech that they feel deserves more attention. And it's just a grassroots labor of love for all of those creators out there that are just putting in the daily work, and we want to celebrate, content that we think needs more eyeballs. You were kind enough to mention I've struck out a new partnership with Slick Deals, and there's going to be some really fun holiday content coming up for Slick Deals. deals. I actually was just meeting with them today, and they dropped off this giant box of Legos. So we're going to be talking about some Legos soon, which is really fun. And then just all of the fun lifestyle technology, e-bikes. I'm getting more into like personal and emergency prep tech, giant batteries and solar panels, and of course, all of the phones and portable gaming and all that, and audio gear that we love to chat about. I'm busy. This is good. I'm running. I like having things to do. It's better than being bored.
Yes, indeed. Well, thank you again. And keep rocking it and have a wonderful holiday. It's good to see
Thanks,
you.
Thanks, and happy holidays to you and everyone on the team and everyone watching and listening.
Thank you, Juan. Also over to you, Wynn. What do you want to leave people with?
Sorry, I'm a little sick this week, but I'm Wynn. I'm an Android developer. I sometimes talk about Android stuff and Kotlin stuff, and you can find all that stuff on randomlytyping.com, my website. And you can find me on the interwebs, on IG, for now the Bird site at Queen Code Monkey, and on Mastodon at Queen Code Monkey at mastodon.social, although that might change in the future because there's a really cool Android dev.social, which I should totally get on. Michelle's already there and I should really move over. Anyway, that's neither here nor there, but that's me. That's where you can maybe find me.
Oh, well, thank you, Wynn, and I hope you feel better. Fast. What about you, Ron?
Yes, as usual, you can find me on Twitter and on Facebook and on Mastodon, even though I'm not using it. I'm RonXO everywhere you can find me, so just go find me there. And check out Scorbit in the Google Play Store if you like pinball. And get ready for your holidays. Do your holiday shopping, everybody.
That's right. If you haven't already. Let's see here. Big thanks to J.R. Rayfield, Android Intelligence, for each and every week providing some amazing tips. Thank you to Burke for pushing buttons, rebooting the TriCaster, doing the news bumper, and all a whole assortment of other things, including giving me this wonderful statue to have next to me as a companion throughout this episode. Big thanks to Victor behind the scenes for editing and publishing, making sure that you get this podcast in a timely fashion. We couldn't do it without you, Victor. You can find me at Jason Howell on Twitter. Don't forget twit.tv/clubtwit. You go there and guess what? You're going to find out all about Club Twit. That's why it's /clubtwit. It's an ad-free subscription tier. All of our shows, no ads. You get Twit Plus podcast feed with tons of extra content. Members only Discord, $7 a month, or you can pay for a full year, $84 per year. And you should do that because Club Twit's awesome. We're doing lots of really fun stuff there. So check it out. twit.tv/clubtwit. As for this show, twit.tv/AAA is the show page on the web where you can go to find all the ways to subscribe in audio and video formats. We do the show every Tuesday, so it publishes late in the evening Tuesday, early morning Wednesday, depending on where you are. And if you're subscribed, you won't miss it each and every time. Thanks so much for watching and listening. We will see you next time on All About Android. Bye, everybody.
Hooray.
Hey there, I'm Micah Sargent. Look, as a geek myself, I feel it's only fair if I admit something. We can be kind of hard to shop for. So what do you get for that geek in your life who has everything already? Well, a Club Twit gift subscription, of course. Twit podcasts keep them informed and entertained with the most relevant tech news podcasts available. With a Club Twit subscription, they're going to get access to all of our podcasts ad-free, exclusive outtakes, behind the scenes and special content, and I love this, exclusive shows like my own Hands on Mac and Hands on Windows from Paul Thurrott, as well as the Untitled Linux Show. So purchase your geek's gift at twit.tv/clubtwit, and they will thank you every day.